What is up, Packers fans, and welcome back to one of the last episodes of the Daily Draft, brought to you by the good folks right here, the makers of Brewski. Badger State Brewing, that joint is just minutes away from beautiful Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I am your host and the publisher of Packer Report, Ross Uglem. And today we are going to follow up our video from yesterday by providing you a six-pack of 2025 NFL draft prospects to check out on the defensive side of the ball. For the first time in a very, very long time, Green Bay went on offense in round one since the Jordan Love pick, and frankly, for a very long time in a non-QB. I believe it had been since Derek Sherrod. The Packers, of course, taking Arizona offensive tackle Jordan Morgan this year, 25th overall, been a long time. They're usually more focused on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what happens when you have 30-plus years of franchise quarterback level play, trying to pair that with a great defense, trying to, give the offensive side of the ball. Well, here are your second-round picks, here are your third-round picks. We're not asking to make, chicken salad out of chicken S, but, we really need the premium guys on defense to try and, keep the other team, in the teens or in the 20s. With that said, that's kind of where we're going to look at a couple guys, right? In that, hopefully Green Bay's picking 32nd, but in that, 25th, where they were this year, to 32-ish range. And then we'll maybe get a little bit deeper than that, but just six guys to jot down in your notebook. Six guys when if they're playing on a Saturday, maybe you flip on their game. Not a fan of this team, but you want to be ready for the 2025 draft. You're a draft person, or my goodness, you wouldn't be still watching a draft YouTube show or listening to a draft podcast here as we basically enter June. Okay. And actually, this is a bonus. This is a bonus episode, or not a bonus episode, but we're doing a 2-for-1 here with our first selections, and that is because the Ohio State University has two guys kind of right where I think Green Bay might pick, and at a position that might be important to them, and that is Jack Sawyer. And by the way, both guys that I wrote up for last year's draft. So you have a little bit more of a base of knowledge, I guess, on these two guys, guys that absolutely could have come out this past year. We'll talk about it throughout this show that Ohio State loaded up, were able to retain some guys, keep them out of the draft. I think there's probably some boosters with some serious money that did not love watching Michigan win a national title. And that was shown by some guys that said no thank you to NFL money to, I'm guessing, make some pretty darn good money in college. That's Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau. I'm not the best with the island names, but JT Tuimoloau. And they are good. I don't know what else to say there. I scouted both guys as potential guys in the 2024 class. I think both are probably looking for the Aiden Hutchinson path. Aiden Hutchinson could have come out the year before he did, have that like late first vibe, kind of a projection, like how good can this kid be? Goes back to Michigan, kills it, and of course is I think the number one overall pick. I'd have to go back and look. I know he was in the top 3 Aiden Hutchinson draft. Second overall. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to figure out. I know he went super high, but this was a guy. Goodness, that's right. The Trayvon Walker thing. My God. Anyway, so these guys, both Jack Sawyer and JT Tuohy, I think, have a chance to jump. And I believe that's what happened to Hutchinson. Late 1, early 2 vibes, teens vibes, something like that. Goes back to Michigan, kills it, second overall pick, extremely successful NFL career thus far, and of course getting to play in front of the home fans there with the Lions. I think that's certainly a success story that probably both of these guys are after. And both guys are described as and I think accurately as high motor players. I'm very impressed with both guys. As far as fit with the Packers, they both fit. We've talked a little bit on the offensive podcast how Green Bay so often shot for the moon in the draft, and drafted a lot of 21-year-old, 22-year-old guys, third-year guys, fourth-year guys. Like it's a running joke of how hilariously young Kenny Clark was when he got into the NFL. Still getting a third, potentially getting a third contract here with Green Bay while still in his 20s. But you look at last year's draft, and they're and by the way, an older guy like Devontae Wyatt, an older guy like Christian Watson in the draft 2 years ago. I think they're ready to win, and they're ready to just sort of admit what's going on in the NIL landscape and admit what's going on with the transfer portal. And yeah, I think premium picks, they prefer to take young guys. Took pretty young guys in Bullard and Edge Cooper this year. Lucas Van Ness was obviously like a super young, just ball of clay in round one in 2023. But these guys both could have come out last year, didn't. And I think Green Bay won't necessarily maybe view that as a positive that they're an older prospect, but might fit their win now mentality that I really truly do believe that they have. Larger players that fit their profile on the edge, they being Green Bay. We talked a lot. Justice Mosqueda posited that potentially, Green Bay was going to look at that Jets model on the edge. Will McDonald, 240 pounds. Will Anderson with the Texans, with Saleh and D'Amico coming from that same tree as Halfley. And Brian at the owners meeting did not tell a lie. He's like, I'm not really interested in getting small on the edge. They haven't. Spencer Wagee, the North Dakota State kid that they grabbed from the 49ers. I'm not saying that's indicative of like what they're doing, but they didn't make any other additions to the edge. They didn't get smaller. They didn't get more flexible. They're rolling with Brenton Cox. They're rolling with, the big four from last year should be Preston Smith, Enigbare, LVN, and Gary. And so to me, until I see something different, I'm going to say Jack Sawyer at 6'4", 265, and JT Tuamalo at 6'4", 270. Those are Packers edges until I see something different. Why would one of them be a fit? Well, because Preston Smith can't play forever. And Kingsley Enigbare is fine, but I don't think there's any guarantee Kingsley gets a second deal from Green Bay. So, let's say Enigbare is going to be then an expiring deal during these guys' rookie season. Preston Smith may not even still be on the team. Are you extending Lucas Van Ness? I don't know. I think, one of these kids could be edge 3, edge 4, whatever it may be. Premium position, big time college. Both seem pretty darn athletic. This is Packersy. So Jack Sawyer, JT Tuamalo, guys I would look at. I'll also say their current ranking on big boards seems to fit that late first round spot where the Packers will be picking, and edge rusher is a spot where they'll take a guy, right? First round, Clay Matthews, first round, Rashawn Gary, first round, Lucas Van Ness. They will take an edge rusher. They will take a pass rusher, Nick Perry. They'll do that in the first round. Thompson down to Goody. They will do it. Goody's taken 2, right? So they're ready to do it. Okay. Their teammate, Denzel Burke, cornerback. Like the edge guys, Denzel could have been a reasonably early pick in 2024, decided to go back to Ohio State. Again, I think the Buckeyes found some serious NIL dollars to make a run at, kind of doing what, unfortunately, my beloved Tar Heels won the title with one of the best college basketball teams of all time, Tyler Hansbrough, 2009. Duke with a very mediocre squad, but they won the title, beating Butler in the Gordon Hayward half court almost. But like that Duke just winning a national title immediately after Carolina did, I think that put some sting for Carolina fans. I know it did for me. Like Ohio State looks at this Michigan national title, first one in a long time for the Wolverines. I think those Buckeyes are thinking, boy, if we could win a natty and just like erase what Michigan did immediately, that has value to these guys. Excellent length, right? Ball skills are notable to me. Smart. Route recognition is excellent. Run pass reads are excellent. It's all good. I think he's a first round corner all day long. Green Bay did not address cornerback in 2024 in the draft or free agency, other than really a nickel candidate in round 7 in Kalen King. If Eric Stokes is cooked, they didn't offer him the 5th-year option. He's going to be gone. I think Burke could be a viable replacement for Cooks to compete with Carrington Valentine, who, by the way, guys, like I love CV. He could turn into a pumpkin. He's a 7th round pick. I want to believe. Math, odds, etc. would tell you like it's not incredibly likely that Carrington Valentine ends up working out. It is much more likely that he doesn't. Hope to be wrong. Hope he's Sam Shields, who is not a 7th rounder. He's a UDFA. But I mean, I hope they're in the same number. If CV is Sam Shields, you're doing backflips. Don't need to take Denzel Burke. I don't know. And in the age of light cornerbacks, because that was a big complaint of mine, the Packers liking these 190 plus corners last year, trying to find one that actually fit their roster was damn near impossible, and they ended up not taking one. So Burke being listed at 193 is good, and he's certainly within their height preferences. Speaking of those Michigan Wolverines, my big guy, Kenneth Grant. Look, I love Mason Graham like everybody else, but unless Jordan Love gets hurt and some other guys get hurt, because you guys know how I feel about Michael Pratt. Take us to the promised land, baby. But they're not going to take Mason Graham. They're not going to be there for that type of situation unless Mason Graham gets into some sort of disturbance against the law. Kenneth Grant, his teammate Kenneth Grant, very, very large human at 6'3", 340 pounds. More pass rush juice than you might think for a true nose body type, which he absolutely has. Very acceptable pass rush grades from Pro Football Focus College. 23 pressures last year at 340 pounds. Keep in mind, that's a total pressure number from a guy that is rotating with the aforementioned Mason Graham, who I believe, even though he's a defensive tackle, is a likely top 10 pick, if not even like top 8 or top 5. And Chris Jenkins, who I thought should have been a first-round guy, ends up getting taken in round 2. But Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham were very, very good players. Kenneth Grant getting 23 pressures in a college schedule, rotating with those two guys at 340 pounds, I'm into that. He also has an extremely low missed tackle rate. He not only clogs up space, but if you happen to be a ball carrier, he's going to just bring you down to the ground. Fit for the Packers, there's no guarantee. I think Andy just said it on his podcast, or it was a YouTube short that I saw on X. There's no guarantee that TJ Slayton or Kenny Clark will be on this team in 2025. I think it would be insane not to re-sign Clark for a third contract. I know how rarely they do that. He's still in his 20s. Yes, the wear and tear. I think this defense is going to fit him better. There just aren't guys that can actually play nose. There's like 5 of them in the league that can actually play nose and rush the passer, and he's one of them. I'm not letting him play for somebody else. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. I'm not letting that happen. But no guarantee that Slayton or Clark are on the team in 2025. I think Green Bay, I know Green Bay did absolutely nothing at defensive tackle in the 2024 draft. They're no strangers to Michigan defenders. Obviously, extremely fond memories of Charles Woodson. Currently employing Rashawn Gary. Jake Ryan. Folks remember Jake Ryan. Last year, they had a cup of coffee with David Long Jr. They're fine with Michigan guys. They don't just have a potential need at defensive tackle. They have a potential need at big defensive tackle, and that's why I spent some time on Tavondre Sweat. That's why I spent some time on McKinley Jackson. The guys in this past year's draft where it's like, if they're going to maybe look to the future at one tech, at nose, here are the body types for that. Last year's draft was a big-time 3-tech draft. Johnny Wilson, best as a 3-tech. Byron Murphy Jr., best as a 3-tech. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State, best as a 3-tech. Even from a size perspective, as much as I loved him as a run defender, Chris Jenkins probably best as a 3-tech. The nose body is what Green Bay is probably looking for, at least somebody who can play, the one without causing too many problems for the linebackers behind him in Jeff Hafley's kind of attacking style defense. Okay, moving on to another position, Danny Stutzman at Oklahoma. Stutzman was another guy that I had a write-up on for this past draft, could have come out, chose to return to Oklahoma. He's got old school size listed at 6'4", 235. I think there's the opportunity if a team would ask him to get up to 240, maybe take a peek at 245, but he's got old school size at the Mike linebacker position, something Green Bay doesn't currently have on the roster and certainly concerns some Packers fans. It doesn't seem to concern Jeff Hafley, but the lack of a traditional Mike body type. I mean, Quay kind of has one, but they've just sort of admitted he's not a Mike. He's got that size. excellent vision, excellent processing. He's a downhill player when he needs to be, and people constantly describing him as smart. What does that mean? Let's go right to the fit with the Packers. He's Mike-ish. Okay, he might not require a super high pick. If Tyron Hopper doesn't end up being a real Mike, I don't think they think Quay can be that. I don't think that makes the most sense for Edgerrin Cooper. I think Stutzman could be a really, really sensible option. Once again, we've touched on this before. Could have come out in last year's draft. He's an older player. He's going to be an experienced player. Could have been in the 2024 draft, and I think brings that win now mentality to the Packers when they're in this kind of window that they're in. Getting a guy like Stutzman, I think very much could start as a rookie at the mic. I think he's got that kind of intelligence. He's going to have that level of college experience. I think he's going to be ready to roll. Same type of thing I'd have to say about another Iowa Hawkeye, and that's Jay Higgins. A little stumpier than Stutzman, but another guy right at 235. That's more the new Mike size than 245. 235, experienced inside linebacker, very good defense at Iowa, tons of zone coverage. There's tons of zone coverage experience. As much as you talk about Hafley playing man, a lot of that's cover one robber, right? A lot of that is going to have the whole principle for at least one linebacker where even if it is man across the board, if it's cover one robber, cover one hole, some linebacker is going to be in coverage. And to me, that's Jay Higgins. He's got very, very high Pro Football Focus college grades, especially in coverage. He's very good in coverage. He's got a single-digit missed tackle rate, so he misses fewer than 10% of his tackle attempts. That's going to be a big deal, especially you look at, Tyron Hopper, even Edgerrin Cooper's missed tackle rate isn't great. Quay Walker, for all of the mean things I've said about him, does not really miss tackles. So that's good. But Jay Higgins does not miss tackles. And that, I think, is something that Packers fans would appreciate. Fit with the Packers. They love those Iowa guys. We talked about this yesterday. We were talking about Lachey, the tight end. Kirk Ferentz was just at OTAs. You can go on and on with the Iowa Packers connection. He's played plenty of Mike, played inside backer for Iowa. He's got that thickness, even more than Stutzman, because the same weight, and one guy is 2.5 inches shorter. So he's thick. Jay Higgins is thick. Can handle the Mike spot. He's got the intelligence, to me, to handle the Mike spot. And I think he could be the coverage guy that they pair with their downhill blitzer types in Quay and Edge. Now, I don't know if they're going to offer Quay Walker a second contract at this point. I would say it's out of the question. But if he's a better fit for Hafley, if you can find ways that because I've always said that Quay and Edge Cooper are probably best at the same position. But if you can find ways to have Quay or Edge be a successful Sam or Mike, I don't think that's, but with the other one really shines at will, maybe there's an opportunity there. And you could pair Higgins as kind of a Mike type and have him with more of the coverage responsibilities, while you have Quay and Edge with more of the blitzing responsibilities, more of the QB spy responsibilities, more of the attacking type responsibilities. And in fact, I think, with Edge, he's got man coverage abilities that maybe Jay doesn't have. But I think Jay Higgins makes a ton of sense, even just with Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. Last, but certainly not least, Quincy Riley from Louisville. Quincy Riley is really interesting. He's a mid-ranger transfer, I believe, from Middle Tennessee State. He's at Louisville now. Bigger corner, at least he's listed that way, like a 6'1", 185 guy. One of the highest coverage grades in all of college football last year. High missed tackle rate. That's problematic, but for me, I'm not that worried about missed tackles at corner. Do I prefer guys that can tackle? Of course. Like, that's obvious. But I don't care that much if you can cover. And boy, howdy, can he cover. 37.2 passer rating when targeted last year, playing ACC ball. 23.4 QB rating when targeted the year before that. Already in his college career, he has 13 picks and 22 pass breakups. This is an extremely productive player in Quincy Riley at Louisville. His fit with the Packers, they're obviously comfortable taking Louisville corners. Jair Alexander, been an all-pro for them. And he's actually a natural companion to Ja with his excellent size. If you're going to play matchups where, Jair would cover your your Tyreek Hill types, or Jair's covering your Amon-Ra St. Brown types, although he likes to play slot, or Jaws covering your DJ Moore types, where your Mike Evans types, Quincy Riley. Okay, your Justin Jefferson types, Quincy Riley. He might take some of those bigger corners, and I think he makes sense as like the Rasul to your Jaw. Quincy Riley could be a nice long-term replacement for what they lost when they did lose Rasul Douglas in that trade to the Bills. Listed at $185, so that's going to be borderline for Green Bay, especially if he can't add some functional weight. But all these damn corners are light. I don't know. It's an epidemic. All these corners are light. And he's not listed at $175. So there's hope for me that there's a chance. And I'll close because this is our last guy. This will be his 6th college season. So he's old as hell, and he could drop because of that. And again, I don't think Green Bay cares. I think it fits their win now timeline. I think for this little run that they're in, they might be cool, especially in the mid rounds, taking somebody that another team was like, he's already 23, 24. How much is left? And the Packers are like, dude, whatever. We would have taken him 2 rounds ago. Bang, Quincy Riley. We think he can be a starting cornerback. Take him in round 3 instead of when he should have gone at the top of round 2. We don't care that he's played 6 college seasons because he's starting for us. Quincy Riley, there we go. Okay, I've given you your 7 packs. So, you walked out maybe with a loose one, and then you got your 6-pack there from Badger State Brewing of defensive players to watch for the 2025 NFL draft class. Obviously, you will watch them in the calendar year of 2024 until we get to bowl season. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you are on the podcast side, you can check me out. I'm at Ross Uglem on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can check us out at Packer Report. We'd really appreciate it if you checked out the merch link that's here or became a VIP. It'd be so tremendously appreciated. Supports me, supports my family, supports all the guys that are writing over there, and just would be, like I said, the biggest deal. If you do some of that and do everything else you're supposed to do here at the Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube channel, like, subscribe, click the bell to get the notifications so that you can get every bit of Packers content that you need on a daily basis. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and go Pack Go.